Each of us are so individual. Your body would tell you how often you need to eat. There's no one prescription for us all. Some people might only need 2 meals a day or 2 big meals a day. I personally would absolutely need my 3 meals a day. But this is the thing, is I convinced myself for so long that I didn't. The last diet I ever done was intermittent fasting in my early 30s. And I'd done it for 2 years and it spiraled my binge eating out of control.
Okay, so intuitive eating is tuning into those cues.
Yeah.
So how does someone go about doing that?
So there's 10 principles, and the first principle is reject the diet mentality. And that's where we look at and investigate, how has dieting served us? Has it actually worked for you? What has been the implications? So you really want to get clear on, what's my motivation to actually look at another way of doing this? And again, I still had the desire to lose weight when I first started intuitive eating. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I did think if I just ate intuitively enough, I would lose weight.
Okay.
Like, I did have to go through the motions to eventually realise, yeah, that's not how it works.
Sinead, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the pod today. Shall we admit that I'd absolutely forgotten that it was...
Will you stop? Thank you so much for having me. We're here. It's absolutely perfect.
For the first time ever, I didn't put the podcast in my diary and I got a little message from Sinead going, is the podcast on today or not? Sinead comes all the way from Galway and I was walking my dog. Anyway, we got here.
We're here and it's absolutely fine.
We got here in the end. It's
absolutely
great.
fine.
Sinead, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Because I obviously reached out to you. Your Instagram handle is Intuitive Eating Ireland.
Yeah.
And I'm just very interested in the work that you do, because all we hear about nowadays is Ozempic and weight loss and obesity and all of that. So let's go.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose, well, how I came to intuitive eating, probably start there, is that for many years I experienced binge eating. And sorry, do you mind if I take a little drop of water after me starting? But I just noticed my mouth is parched.
So you weren't in the seat, but you needed to go to the toilet.
Sorry,
and
I know.
Now you want to drink water.
I will settle. You wouldn't think I'm doing a master's in mindfulness. You'd be like, Jesus.
Do you know what? Sometimes I find,
sit down for a minute.
Sometimes I find it takes about 20 minutes to relax into a podcast, which is why mine are nice and long.
Okay, taking a breath. So I experienced binge eating for years, like 2 decades. And it all stemmed from going to Weight Watchers when I was maybe 16 or 17. Myself and I have 3 sisters and I'm the eldest, and sure, of course, roped them all in. This is going to be great, lads, we'll all lose weight, come on, and we go, and off we went. And at the time, sure, I don't know how they let teenagers into the door of Weight Watchers, but they did. So very quickly after starting Weight Watchers, after a number of months, I'd say, of counting points, I began to notice the binge eating starting at the weekend, like right before the meeting. Like the meeting was always on a Thursday at 7 o'clock. God, it's etched into my memory forever. And like, the binge eating at the weekend and then the starving yourself Monday to Thursday. And this cycle went on for years.
Why did you go to Weight Watchers in the first place?
Just because I did not think I was thin enough. When I look back and I reflect on all of the women in my life at that time, the girls that, I would say that I was likely the same size as everybody else, but just did not think I looked thin enough. And I was getting it from, I suppose, images from magazines at the time. I suppose, what would that have been? I was in, like, that was late 90s, early 90s, I'm assuming. God, I'm terrible at maths. I'm an 84 baby. And
did you grow up in a household where, say, your mother was always concerned about her weight or talking about it or weighing herself?
No, and this is the thing, like, I really, when I look back on my own childhood, and because part of the work obviously is reflecting back on the messages that you received growing up from maybe your own caregivers or whoever would have been in your house, I can honestly say it's not something that I would have seen overtly. Now, there's always going to be the subtle messages. There might be some comments, maybe if there's aunts or there's parties or whatever it might be, someone would say like, oh, doesn't she look great? She lost weight, about somebody. So you'd pick up the small, you'd pick up them messages. But in terms of my own mum, never saw her on a weighing scale, never saw her talking about dieting, never saw her stepping on a scale, counting points. I never saw any of that. So she, and certainly not my dad. So I suppose I didn't receive that from them, and we were the kind of house that, like, my mother would put all the food in the middle of the table and we'd all take what we wanted. So she didn't make us
free for all.
Free for all, and there was no, no one was told you have to eat anything, so I didn't even grow up in a house with rigid rules. And I suppose that's why I say to mammies all the time that are really stressed about, but I don't want my child to have an eating disorder or disordered eating. And I would say, actually, like, we're not in complete control of that. We can do our best, but actually, even if you don't have any of these messages in your house, we still don't know, because there's peers, there's social media, there's television, there's, just the outside diet culture noise, that we will absorb the message that thin is best no matter what, even if it's not in your house. So obviously I obviously advocate for us as parents doing the best we can to make sure that we're not giving that message to our children, and we do keep as much of the diet culture out of the house as possible. But we still get it, and I got it at that age, that message of, you just need to be smaller, need to be thinner.
I'm just thinking of the food being put into the middle of the table. Literally, if I did that, there would be carnage. Like, I have 3 lads, okay? Yeah. And it is every man for themselves, but fingers would get broken if I have to plate them up, because otherwise, unless it's round 2, but they would actually be fighting over whatever is on the table.
I'm sure we had plenty
That's a bigger
around.
lamb chop than this one. To be eyeing each other up for who gets the bigger plate.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was plenty rows in our house, but my mother was kind of great at switching off from all of that.
Oh, you have to, all over the
switch off, let them off, let them kill one another over the food. But yeah, so it just, from going to Weight Watchers, that's how it really started. The binge eating started. But at the time, I was just like, I'm just, there's just something wrong with me. Like, I'm just so gross. Like, who eats like this? This is just, I'm so flawed. I'm just broken.
And what was binge eating? What did that look like?
So binge eating, and I never went for a formal diagnosis, but certainly been very aware of what the criteria is. I absolutely would have met the criteria. So binge eating is really eating a large volume of food in a short space of time, really with the sense of being completely out of control, and then followed by often this real deep sense of disgust and shame. Okay. So it's not just like having a few extra Maltesers and an extra bag of crisps at the weekend. Like some of the people will say like, oh yeah, like I had a binge at the weekend, but they might be talking about like something quite small. A binge is like a large volume of food. Okay. And I've done it all, and I talk about it really openly because I really want people to hear that binge eating is often, not always, but often a direct response to deprivation. Like, our body is hardwired to survive. First and foremost, that's literally the body's job, to survive. So it'll do whatever it needs to do. The nervous system will activate, and if we have been starving ourselves and depriving ourselves of food, we will move into that place, and the body, we will get food one way or the other if if it's available to us. And of course, we live, I live in Ireland. I always lived down the west. Food is available to me all the time. I'm really lucky and privileged to have that, to be able to say that. So that's what binge eating was for me, is that most weekends and maybe some evenings, like, I done it all. I've taken food out of the bin. I've squirted like washing up liquid on food to not eat it, and then like go back and figure out what parts of it that I can eat. I finished work and veered into the petrol station on the way home and bought 5 bars, and then stopped at the next one, and then stopped at the next one. And people, and I know there's people watching this that are doing this right now. It's much more common than we think. Binge eating is so debilitating.
It sounds like it absolutely is, and very stressful.
Yeah,
as well.
It's a very distressing experience. Like, really, it's so out of control. You feel like that's the thing, is that you can't stop.
And did you try and purge ever?
So when I was younger, I heard that like if you make yourself vomit, that your teeth would fall out. And I really believed that. So had I not believed that and was quite terrified of anything happening to my teeth, I reckon I would have tried it. But I didn't. And thankfully I didn't. But, I still had the binge eating. And to be honest, whether it's bulimia, whether it's binge eating, it's deeply distressing. Yeah.
Okay.
So I suppose that went on for all my 20s. And I kept thinking, I just need to get the right diet. So there's something wrong with my gut. I have a gut imbalance. So let's just do, a healthy gut diet, and let's do this detox and this. There's probably nothing you could say in terms of like the wellness world and all the different things. I have tried them all. Like, literally.
And the amount of diet books that are out there, and they're all ridiculous, because the reality of them all is restrictive eating.
Yeah.
Even intermittent fasting is skipping your breakfast. And eating eating food within a time frame, which is fine. And there's evidence for fasting and it being good. However, there's always something out there for people to kind of latch onto as a diet. But people will inevitably rebound, won't they, if like once the diet is finished. And I think that's why like people always say like Weight Watchers is actually the best business in town, because it doesn't actually work. People just keep going back to it.
It's like revolving door. People come back, and people will say all the time, oh no, but the first time I done Slimming World, it worked. It worked. And we need to really question that, because if it worked, would we be talking about going back and again and again and again? And, you know, this is the thing, is that they don't care about your relationship to food. They care about coming in and keeping you motivated by looking at a number of a scale, and that number on the scale will decide how you feel about yourself and what you're going to do in terms of food and, you know, all the rest of it for the next week until you come back again, and the same ding dong. And it's not about how trapped you are with thinking about food, the obsession. Like thinking about, I used to wake up thinking about food. I would go to bed doing that little calculation in my mind. Did I overdo it? How much did I have today? Toddling up. I couldn't tell you what I've had yet today or what I had yesterday. It's like, no, I don't keep any of that information in my mind anymore. And it's so freeing to be able to genuinely say, for the last, you know, 5 or 6 years since I started realising, because I studied nutrition, I done it all. I thought, okay, the problem is I just don't know enough about nutrition. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to study nutrition. And then once I know what the kind of, you know, perfect diet is, then I'll be the weight that I'm meant to be, you know, and I'll be free from all of this. And actually that made me quite orthorexic. So then I went down the route of, like, everything's going to give me cancer. If I eat a morsel of sugar, I'm going to have diabetes.
Sorry, what is orthorexia for everyone listening?
Orthorexia is whereby you would become like quite obsessional and hypervigilant about eating any processed foods. So unless it was grown on the ground or pulled out of the tree, you'd probably be up in arm's length about it and convinced that, like, it would contribute to everything from dementia to, you know, yeah, you name it.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, I could not send my kids to school with a ham sandwich when I was studying nutrition. I thought, ham, bread, but no way. So like I was sending them in with like all sorts of stuff, spending a fortune every week in the health food store. I'd say they were loving me in the health food store because I was wheeling out with bags of stuff and sending my kids in with quinoa crackers and everything that they wouldn't have even looked at. But I was sending them in, didn't care. I was like, at least I'm doing the right thing. And firing in all this food, and they wouldn't even, like, what I was making them eat was horrendous.
Can I just say to you one thing, because you did mention Slimming World there, and I do have to say, even the very fact that Slimming World calls food sins,
yes,
like that mentality. Now I know they spell it S-Y-N, you know, whatever clever marketeer came up with that.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, to actually think of food as a sin and to make people that go there, particularly women, because it's all women, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Look at food as a sin and count up the amount of sins that they've eaten. I just think is
crazy.
Awful.
Like psychologically, what does that do to us?
Yeah.
And it's how could you be neutral or indifferent or look at food in a positive way when really what you're doing is you're racking up how many sins it has. And like if you eat a banana straight out of its lovely cover, it's no sins, or it might be a sin, but if you mash it, it's no sins at all. Sure, make that make sense.
So why? Sorry, can you explain the reasoning for that?
Sure, I can't, because it's just bananas. I don't know who made it up. Literally bananas. I don't know who made that up. But there's all sorts of them rules, and we can very quickly find ourselves down a hole with that. You know, it's like a cult.
Yeah.
Now, I also have to say, because like, I do know that there's people that have been to Slimming World and their relationship with food isn't really bad. So like, to give the other side of it, I'm not saying it's everybody that goes is going to weight cycle and have a horrendous relationship with food. But a lot of people do, like a huge amount. There's never been any research to back up that any of these, whether it's Slimming World, Weight Watchers, even, I'll mention it, Operation Transformation, that'll be coming on our screens.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like these, all of these diets, and they are short term, they're like 8-week diets, put you on a really low calorie diet. Of course you're going to lose weight if you're in a calorie deficit. That's how it works. You know, if you're eating less than your body needs, you will lose weight. And I could never deny that. But then the question is, at what cost and how long is that going to last? Because eventually we all know what the high is like when we have the first diet. Like I remember the first time I lost weight in Weight Watchers, I thought, this is a piece of cake. Why didn't I do this sooner? Like a breeze. Because it was just so easy. Because psychologically, I hadn't nearly been harmed by it. It was the first time. So like, and then every time, every diet got harder. To the point where I was damned if I dieted and damned if I didn't. That's where I ended up. That's what we call diet bottom. And a lot of people might relate to that place where they look back and they say, but remember that time I done that diet in my 20s? Easy, lost loads of weight. Like, why can't I just go back and be like that anymore? But our body remembers. It just won't, like psychologically, it's like physiologically, our body stores that, and it's like, I'm not going back to that. No way. right? The body holds the score. And I see that all the time. That pattern is very evident in all the clients that we work with. You know, they're like, I just don't know why I can't go back and do it like I did that time. And it's just, that's why, because our body is remembered.
But isn't it awful that there is a huge amount of people out there and they spend an awful lot of their time thinking about food and the harm that it's doing to them, or like trying to lose weight, trying to like cut things out of their lives rather than actually just enjoying food for what it is and then enjoying their lives and enjoying their bodies.
Yes, because what we do know to be true is the impact of stress on health. And what is more stressful, and certainly I felt it all the time, the stress of worrying about food and what you're eating and not eating and what you shouldn't be eating and what you can't eat, and, you know, trying to get it right. Like the stress of that, like the trying to be perfect and, you know, and achieve that weight loss. And I'm so passionate about talking about this because I really believe that if we took the focus off the weight loss, if we just said, what about putting that in the top shelf? I understand people want to lose weight, and I would never tell anybody, don't lose weight or don't try or don't diet. We're all autonomous beings. People can decide what they want to do. But I feel like we should have more information in terms of the informed consent piece. Let people really understand, what are the risks of dieting? What's normal eating? Like we've come so far away from what normal eating is, we haven't a breeze. Like we think that all of this counting calories and, as you mentioned, like obsessing about food, and think the minute you get up in the morning, think about what you're going to eat for the day, reflecting back and thinking.
But hang on, is it okay to wake up in the morning and be dying for your breakfast and be thinking about what you're going to eat for your breakfast? Yeah,
my favourite meal of the day is the breakfast.
I was the same. I wake up and go, oh, I can't wait for my cappuccino.
Yes, oh my God! But like, imagine the joy you even look at your face. You're lit up.
Yeah,
because you're not dreading it.
No,
you can't wait. Whereas most people that are dieting, and they wake up with a dread. Will I stick to the diet today or won't I?
Oh, that's awful, isn't it?
That's the feeling. It's dread. It's not excitement to eat the food. There's no pleasure in the food. It's misery. It's like, oh, I hope I stay away from it. I hope I only eat the amount I'm meant to eat. That's the stress. Not waking up going, can I have my breakfast? Oh my God.
That is awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
really
is it that they're enjoying it while they're eating it, but then afterwards it's that deep sense of shame?
I actually don't believe that they're even connected to eating the food. When I say they, I mean, I wasn't either. I feel like that normal eating is when we are actually enjoying the food when we're eating it, and we can go about our day with all the rest of the stuff. But dieting does the opposite. We're not actually connected to the eating when we're eating. We're not connected to the food, and we're thinking about, and then we're literally spending the rest of our day thinking about food when we're not eating. It's like the opposite.
It's such a disconnect, isn't it?
It's so disconnected. So like even when you're eating, it's the analysing of it. You're not really with the food. You're not tasting it. You're not really being really with it. You're up in your head. Should I be eating this? Shouldn't I? Is this right? Is this good for me? Is this healthy? Is this on plan? So
tell me what intuitive eating is then.
Oh yeah, God, okay. We must talk about what it is.
Can we just talk about like what you do for your living? Like?
Yeah. So intuitive eating was put together by two dietitians in the 90s, Evelyn Tribbley and Elise Resch, two amazing ladies. They basically had a weight loss clinic, and they saw kind of a very similar pattern with people that were treating, coming in, put them on a plan, all lose weight, and then maybe 6 months later, a year later, back, having gained the weight, plus more, usually, often.
Is that the thermostat thing that, I know Mick Crotty, because he was on the podcast talking about obesity, and the fact that a lot of people would look at someone that's obese and think lazy, slovenly, stuffing their face and everything. Mm-hmm. But the reality of obesity is... and I know neither of us are experts in obesity, and I'll just say that outright. But Dr. Mick is, and he was saying there's a thermostat in your brain, basically, that and as mammals and as humans, we I suppose we started out life in scarcity.
Yes.
So when we always our bodies always wanted to achieve the highest weight it could.
Yeah.
So when we reach a certain weight, so say we reach 10 stone or 12 stone or whatever it is, our body wants us to get back there no matter how much weight we lose. We could lose 2 stone off 10 stone, but our body always wants us to go back to 10 stone plus some, because it's always trying to achieve the highest weight it can.
A little bit of cushion in case this happens again. Where no food
in case
is
there's a famine.
Yeah, for sure. And you see that all the time. So they saw that pattern and they came together, obviously looked at some of the weight science in terms of dieting and all of that, and what happens to the body, psychologically, physiologically, etc. And they kind of came away going, we can't do this anymore. Like ethically, we don't want to put people on diets anymore, because we know the likelihood is we're going to see them back in a year more miserable than ever, more stressed, and we've messed up their relationship with food. So they put together this framework. So it's just they're guiding principles. There's 10 of them. You don't kind of start at one and end up at 10. It's not really like that. We're integrating and learning about them all and practicing them all together. But there's 10 principles. So it's really a self-care eating framework to help us connect to our body's cues. So it's like unplug, disconnect from all the diet culture noise about what we should and shouldn't be eating, all of that, and connect to what we all have been born with, like the ability to know when we're hungry and when we're full and what satisfies us. Like we have that innately from, like, see babies coming out and, when they're born, they know exactly how to access food. They cry. And when they're finished, they pull away. This is innate in us. So somewhere along the way that gets skewed, whether that's we have food rules in the household growing up, maybe teachers say things and they see things on telly or whatever it might be. So we lose that ability to understand what we need. And then a lot of people will end up turning to dieting for whatever, at young ages. All of our clients, the ages that people have been on diets since is just like it's so upsetting. Like I'm really nervous because I have like a daughter. I have 2 boys and then I have a girl. And she, like, when I had her, I was like, oh my God, she's 7 now. And like the thought of her thinking that she's not good enough. Like girls as young as 5 fear fatness more than death.
What?
So let's just let that sink in. Yeah. Girls like younger than my daughter.
How do they even know what fat is, though?
Exactly, because we're receiving messages like, look at Peppa Pig, look at the cartoons that they watch. Like, it's in their school books. I see some of the diet culture, so subtle stuff. Like, it can be subtle. And unless you maybe have really looked into this, you may not spot it. But it's there. And the messages, like you mentioned earlier, these anti-fat biases, these anti-fat attitudes that we are conditioned to believe, like people that are living in bigger bodies, fat people are lazy, that they don't like any nutritious foods, that they only like to eat burgers and chips, right? I actually seen this in one of Anna's things when she was doing her maths. It was like a picture of a bigger person, and what they were having was like burgers, and you had to count up the burgers, right? So, and I was there, my God, there's the message right there. That's why.
And this filters into everything. I was actually reading something in The Economist there a couple of months ago, and even people that are living in bigger bodies, they are less likely to get promotions.
Yeah.
They're less likely to reach, board level in a company, particularly women.
Yeah.
So for men, there's actually very little difference. But for women that are living in bigger bodies, or obese women in particular, they can find it very hard to go up the career ladder because they're almost just bypassed for people that are slimmer. It's so wrong, isn't it?
Totally. And Sabrina, Fear in the Black Body. I'm just trying to think now at the top of my head. It's a long time ago since I read it. But like, she really outlined quite clearly how bigger bodies, particularly women, it's this idea that they're lacking intelligence. It's fascinating, and how we've just, again, conditioned to believe that. And this is why we see it happening. It still plays out now that, as you said, there's research to show less likely to get promoted and to get certain jobs. Like, which is just crazy. So back to just, suppose, the intuitive eating, like, is just it's a self-care eating framework, and it's really looking at that mind-body connection. Yeah, so that's kind of how I came to it, because, of course, like, my relationship with food I'd hit that diet bottom place. And I got to the place with my sisters, because we're all really close, and we would have similar, I suppose, patterns in eating and all the rest of it.
Did your sisters binge also?
One of them did. My next sister down to me, but not my younger two.
Okay.
Yeah, that I'm aware of, no. So, but we all were like we're all trapped in that world for sure. Like,
well, you started it with your dragging the Weight
totally.
Watchers.
I pulled them along, kind of out of that chance. The only thing is, I'm hoping I can say that I also brought them all to intuitive eating, and they're all in a really good place now. You know, so hopefully I've that. Yeah. Blame the eldest. The eldest always gets the blame for everything.
I know, but sure, we paved the way, us eldest children, don't we? Can I just ask you, is eating 3 meals a day? Mm-hmm. Plus snacks, has that been forced on us with by the food industry. You know, they do say that apparently Kellogg's invented that, you know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day type thing.
Yeah.
And all of those things. Like, do we need to be eating our breakfast, lunch and dinner plus snacks? Or if we were to intuitively eat, would we be doing that?
The only way we would know that is each of us are so individual. Your body would tell you how often you need to eat. There's no one prescription for us all. Some people might only need 2 meals a day or 2 big meals a day. I personally would absolutely need my 3 meals a day. But this is the thing, is I convinced myself for so long that I didn't. I done intermittent. The last diet I ever done was intermittent fasting in my early 30s. And I'd done it for 2 years, and it spiraled my binge eating out of control.
Because you have to eat in those 8 hours, so or 6 hours, depending on.
Yeah.
And then what about this? Oh, sorry,
Not
jumping.
at all.
I'm jumping
You're
because
grand.
literally
Jump away.
I had a friend who was doing the 5-2 diet
5-2,
or something,
yeah.
where you don't eat. What is it? It's like you can eat what you want for 2 days and not eat for 5.
And then
or
500
something.
calories in the 2 days.
Jesus Christ!
Like 500 calories wouldn't do me for breakfast. Like, honestly.
But it's also so bad for our hormones as females to be doing that.
Absolutely. And I think we see it like it massively affects mood, irritability, concentration, just from a mental health perspective. Physically, there's obviously consequences of eating such little energy. But like, my God, as women, we don't need all of that extra push to meet that stress and that irritability and all of that, because we've got enough on our plates.
Oh, geez, our ovaries do it for us. Don't
Exactly.
They? Or
so we don't need that.
Or don't produce the estrogen, which is another topic entirely.
Yeah.
Okay, so intuitive eating is tuning into those cues.
Yeah.
So how does someone go about doing that?
So there's 10 principles, and the first principle is reject the diet mentality, and that's where we come away to say, we look at and investigate, how has dieting served us? Has it actually worked for you? What has been the implication? So you really want to get clear on, what's my motivation to actually look at another way of doing this? Because, you know, if you keep the goal and the desire, and again, look at, I still had the desire to lose weight when I first started intuitive eating. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I did think if I just ate intuitively enough, I would lose weight.
Okay.
Like I did have to go through the motions to eventually realise, yeah, that's not how it works. But anyways, and so if people do that, that's okay too. But yeah, just rejecting the diet mentality. So really just looking at, what are the foods that actually, what do I want to eat? What do I actually have a desire for? What would truly satisfy me? What feels good? Where do I notice hunger in my body? How do you know you're hungry? What are the sensations that actually arise how do you know?
Jeez, I get hangry.
So is hangry potentially a signal for you that maybe you've gone past the point of hunger?
Yeah, it is.
So you might have been hungry for a while before you know, and then you noticed hangry.
Yeah.
Because the body was like, you better listen.
Yeah, that's it.
So there might have been earlier signs.
Yeah.
So it could be just really
I'm hungry now, all the food talking we're doing. I'm salivating.
I have a little snack in my bag if you want one. I don't go anywhere without snacks. But yeah, like you might have subtle, like, you know, you might start having thoughts about food. You might just notice that your concentration just dips a little bit. You might even notice a dip in energy. Maybe you notice a little gnawing in your belly. Like, there's loads of signs that our body will give us that actually it needs fuel. But a lot of us are not aware of them until they're at that place, the hangry place, right? Because we're just so busy, disconnected, and just life is just chaotic. So we are disconnected from that. And then we look at, obviously, like, again, what satisfies us. We look at, you know, challenging the food police. So that's just one of the principles. And it really looks at, how do I challenge some of these mad thoughts and beliefs that I've been created in my mind as a result of diet culture? Can I challenge some of this? Can I look at having a better way of relating to food? You know, how can I make peace with food? That's another principle. How can I allow these foods into my life? And, you know, there's the concept of food habituation. And food habituation is whereby, and I see it all the time, when you're exposed to food, and people are so like, if I bring that into the house, I will not stop eating it. Like, you can't leave it in the house, I've it eaten. And I hear you.
I just met a friend today. I brought down 2 coffees and 2 croissants. And she's like, I can't, you better take them back. Yeah. Because if I eat one of those croissants, then I'll start eating loads and loads of carbs all around the house. I'll be like, I've eaten it, therefore I'm just going to let the wheels come off. Yeah. I can't just have one.
Yeah.
So that's
interesting.
Is that...
Because a lot of people will relate to that.
Okay.
But what happens there is that eating the first croissant has set off a cascade of some guilt and thoughts of, I shouldn't have eaten it. And therefore you keep going, you collect all of the carbs and eat all the carbs.
Okay.
But when you've unconditional permission, because there's a lot of people that will eat a croissant and it's absolutely fine. I can eat a croissant and it doesn't mean that I spend the rest of the day eating 10 other croissants.
Yeah.
Because when you've unconditional permission to eat it, like no guilt, no shame, it's just a croissant. Can I have one today? I could have one tomorrow. I might not have one for 10 weeks and I could have, so there's just, that's where the issue lies, is that there's a judgment about that first croissant and it's set off. It's like a domino effect.
But how have you gone from binging and that guilt about food to now eating in the croissant and not thinking about it? That must have taken a shitload of work, did it?
It did, yeah. It did. But it was the best work I ever done, and the reason why I had really good motivation. I mentioned I studied nutrition. I mentioned that I was a bit orthorexic, and I projected that onto my kids. And when my now 11-year-old was about 3 or 4, he started binge eating. Because I had him on such a rigid diet. I had no gluten. He was on no gluten, no dairy, no sugar. Oh God, when I think back, it was like no fun, absolute misery. And I had him on a really strict diet. And I was like, he's going to be the healthiest child ever.
And was he like go to parties and eat or what?
Oh yeah, and he never left the party table. He would go to the party and he would sit and like he wouldn't play with his friends. That's so sad. Like he would spend the whole time at the table where all the food was because he couldn't separate himself from it to go with his friends because he knew, well, Rami's not going to ever, she's not going to give me any of this again. It's just so sad.
Yeah, it's kind of reminding me of my kids about the Halloween, the big Halloween bag that came back after the trick or treats. I had to like eventually confiscate it, but I did leave them at it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of maybe one of the first years that I did, because I used to be a lot stricter about the food, the junk that they ate, say. Because I suppose I was reared in a household where food wasn't never an issue, as in like it was all about healthy eating, never about diet. But mum was strict about sugar, and it was always because of our teeth.
Yeah.
And I suppose, so I was like that with my kids about the teeth. And also they just eat junk till the cows come home too. So there's a kind of I don't know, there's a fine balance, isn't there, as well, between not allowing them anything and then allowing them to intuitively eat but not actually make themselves sick on it either.
Well, you see, the thing is that we know as well, like research will show that those are rearing children with the intuitive eating approach, like children are not obsessed with these foods, so they'll be able to take them or leave them. Yeah. Often that kind of eating a lot of them, like to the point where like nobody wants to see their child getting sick eating loads of Mars bars. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So, but when the child actually has the option to eat those Mars bars and it's not a really big deal, like they're not on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Like these foods were in my house all the time, and my kids could honestly take them or leave them. Halloween was no different in my house.
Okay.
They were just like, they did have some extra because there was maybe some, they went out and trick or treated. So I'm sure they had a bit more. But not really, not in comparison. Do you know what I mean? Not in comparison to maybe what I know from a lot of parents. There's like oh God, but they ate like so much, and it's like that stems from the children are perceiving that they're on some level forbidden.
They know they're only going to have for such a short period
for just
of time.
Halloween,
and then
and they're like, okay, well, let's keep eating until she takes them away, till she confiscates them, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I suppose even it's interesting with the sugar, because I spoke to a dentist once and he was like, yeah, we blame the sugar for a lot, but actually in terms of cavities, he said it really comes down to very poor oral hygiene in terms of actually being able to brush children's teeth right. And if we would have better oral hygiene. We blame the sugar for a lot.
Yeah.
But actually we're not great in general, we don't brush their teeth very well.
And also I think it's if they're constantly grazing on sugar throughout the day, they've constantly got that acid attack. Whereas if they were just, if they had it in the morning or in the evening, or it wasn't like constant bits of food in their mouth all the time.
Yeah.
That's the issue as well.
Yeah. So I suppose, like, where was I there? I was going.
Sorry,
No, you're fine.
And everything.
Not
at
all.
Like, oh my God, and this, and then I have this story.
No,
and then I have this story.
I was just thinking, we were on something.
We were on intuitive eating and the Mars. Your child. We're on your child binge eating at parties.
Yes,
because you're basically a bad mother.
Terrible. So So I thought, oh God, this is not good. So I went and got help. I went and got therapy for that to figure that out, and it really helped. But it started with me, so I had to work on me first. So I did, and I worked my ass off. And for the first kind of year, it was all about my relationship with food. And then the interesting thing is I didn't really have to do a whole pie with the kids once I understood my stuff, because I was projecting onto them. And once I loosened the reins and understood, what does it look like? This is not like, nobody is saying like have the counter just full of sweets and that's what we do and we just leave it open, free for all.
Yeah.
One of the misconceptions about intuitive eating is that it's just like, eat sweets all day and eat whatever. No, like it's looking at trying to, instead of focusing on one meal or one snack or even 1 week or eating or even 1 month, it's like widening the lens of what would like a full 6 months look like in terms of the amount of the food that your child is eating or you're eating. Is it varied enough? Are you getting a wide variety of foods? And it's about like, what can I add in? So it's never about what do I need to take out? It's looking at, well, if you identify, well, actually, I might not be eating much vegetables and I might not be eating, okay, how might we bring them into your diet without you feeling restricted and thinking that you can't eat other things? You can. It's all about adding in, bringing in to the fold lots of variety. Because of course nutrition matters. Like no one's going to say nutrition doesn't matter. You know, we all know what it feels like when you've had adequate protein and carbohydrates and fats in your meal, you know, and when you don't. I notice a big, like if I don't have eggs in the morning, I likely won't be sustained when I'm having my meetings and seeing clients. I know myself, if I opt for certain options that don't have a source of protein in it, for example, my energy will nosedive pretty quickly. So it's been aware of that. We can be aware of nutrition information without it coming from a place of needing to lose weight and without it being restrictive. There's a really big difference between that. And I think I wish more people knew that we can look at health, we can look at optimizing how we feel, our energy, our mood, our sleep, our just overall sense of well-being and life satisfaction. We can do all of that without the misery of dieting.
Okay. And are you totally 100% happy with you now? As in
my body?
Yes.
No. I talk about this a lot. We talk about this a lot on our coaching calls, you know. I think I'll probably always have thoughts about, you know, that if I was smaller, I would just look better. I think I'll always maybe have some thoughts on that on some level.
God, and I think you look beautiful.
And I do too. This is the thing, is there's a part of me. They're parts.
Yeah.
So I think we need to hold space for, there's lots of parts of me that know that I'm absolutely good enough. I really do believe that. And I know that to be true. I know that my worth is not dependent on what I look like. I know that I'll never go back dieting again.
Okay.
I know that to be true. But I also, there's a teeny time, because I do live in a world, and we all do, where, you know, thinness is valued and praised and encouraged, and we compare ourselves. We're naturally, as humans, we will compare ourselves to some degree. So I still have thoughts. I usually have them the week before my period, actually. The body image is
probably hormonal as well, isn't it then? Because your mood is probably a little bit lower too.
Yeah, there's a bit of research around that usually our body image is like our perception of our body shifts before we menstruate, and I really notice it. So I might have like 2 or 3 days where my clothes feel funny, I just feel a bit more meh, and my body image is just a bit off for them few days. But I guess
we really are complex, aren't we, us females?
Oh, we're very complex. We sure are. And but I suppose it's how we manage that, you know. So I couldn't sit here and say and tell a lie that I don't need to love what I see in the mirror. That's not, I don't know if that'll ever be fully available to me, but I don't need it. I just am choosing to respect it and care for it as best I can. I think that's the difference. I don't need to love it. That's okay. Yeah. Like I you know, we've got us women, we've babies, we've got scars and lumps and bumps, and I had 4 C-sections. You know, I've all the markings. And so will I ever look in the mirror and be like, wow, amazing? Maybe not. But do I need it? No. Okay. I'm okay with that.
And you do have an older child who's 19. And they, because you said to me earlier on that you feel you've grown up with him, or he's always been around the last 20 years. So he has been around while you've had this eating issue as well, and you've three younger kids. Yes. Does he have eating? Did he have disordered eating himself, or did he watch you? And
no, I just think he didn't pass a bit of eating me. I'd say it's so funny. He was mad into the farm and spent a lot of the time, I would say, back. He got reared. A lot of the rearing was probably with his grandparents, who are just wonderful, and my husband's parents. They live next door, and my own parents. God, my own sisters.
But you were very young when
I
you
was
had
young,
them,
you see, and then I went to college, and I was so I suppose it's like the whole family reared Keane, really. Oh. And
I'm sure he's so rounded for it as well. My kids love their grandparents. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and Declan's parents are great, and they're just there's no nonsense with the she feeds them almighty, and there's no talk about what you can't eat, and there's dessert after the dinner, and like great farming people, and I probably believe he got lots of positive influence from them, and that the difference with Evan then, my 11-year-old, was that was all around the time with me studying nutrition, and I pushed a lot of that on him in particular.
Okay.
I wouldn't have had the same influence on Keith because he was like, whatever you say, ma'am, should we be gone next door eating whatever he wanted. So he just didn't pass a bit eating me,
I think it's actually, it's so refreshing that you're so honest about that, about with Evan and what happened.
Yeah.
Because it's really important that you say that without guilt or shame.
I do.
It's absolutely lovely to see, because I think so many mums are worried to admit their shitty fucking parenting experiences, or what, like we've all done awful things.
Awful things.
Just like stuff that it's not right. And
it's not great.
But you're afraid to admit it because of the shame factor. But I think the more of us that are actually come to the table and to say, actually, I had a really bad parenting moment yesterday.
Really bad,
and
yeah.
and just start.
Yeah, and I think that like shame keeps us hiding, that when we really feed into the shame tells us, if I say that out loud, I will be shunned and ostracised from society. That's the purpose of shame.
Yeah.
So, and how do we kind of dissolve that a little bit? It is by sharing and being honest. And no, I don't beat myself up. Yeah, if I could go back, would I change it and do things differently? Of course, with the knowledge that I've had, but actually I wouldn't go back because it's brought me to where I am now. And I feel that the whole house has benefited from me and the work that I've done on myself. And it's been really, really positive for them all. And to be honest, kids are also super adaptive and resilient and wonderful and amazing, because there's not a bother on him now, and thankfully I was able to do that work, and I believe it's never too late to do that work. Like we work with women in their 60s, 70s that are like, only now coming to the realisation that maybe the diets are not serving me well. Like
so 50 years of dieting.
50 years, and there's plenty that are going to be listening to this that are going to be like, yeah, I'm in my 4th decade of dieting.
So can you tell me a little bit about what you do then in your work?
Yeah, so do you mean intuitive eating or in my... I have a day job, in my day job.
Do you?
Yeah.
I know you're a nurse.
Yes, I am. So like my day job is... my day job is working for the HSE. I work in the Galway Hospital on the perinatal mental health team. I'm the clinical nurse specialist on that team for the last few years, and I absolutely love it. I love working with women, and because I'm actually really, obviously, I'm really passionate about intuitive eating and body image stuff, but just in general, women, how we look after ourselves and how we prioritise our needs and be able to just, really understand and know that we are worthy of time for ourselves and worthy of good things that are, yes, we have children and we give them everything that we can, and Jesus, we do, but we also have needs, and it's really important that we don't forget that. Really important. And and that doesn't mean it doesn't come with struggles, because the other side of that is I look after myself really well. I do take time for myself. And I'm really lucky. I've got a supportive husband. It works for us, and we make it work for one another. And I've got great family that help out with the kids. So Jeannie Max, I know it's not everybody's going to have these circumstances. I know how privileged I am in so many ways. But I really think that it's like we're kind of somehow conditioned that when you have kids, put all your needs aside and put everything into them. Like that's all that matters. You're a mum now and you have to give them everything. And I know it's difficult because I juggle this balance of knowing that on some level my kids probably would prefer if I was at home more and a bit more present with them. And I'm really, really trying. I am, which is why I'm just doing a master's in mindfulness. That's another thing I'm doing at the moment.
Jesus, you just jump from fucking degree to master's to diploma to whatever else.
Or like I'm in
continuous education.
Yes, well, I do think, look, at student for life. Yeah. I hope that I will always stay open to learning, because we never know everything. But the day we think we know it all, you may hang up your shoes. So
I agree. I get the whole parenting thing, though. I have the awful, and I was actually talking to that friend that I was talking about earlier. We were both saying, when the kids come home from school, if you're there, and it's great to be able to make them lunch, but I almost feel like I'm making them lunch, then I'm checking a bit of homework, then it's like out the door to training. And do I actually sit down and talk to them? So I've actually tried to now sit down if one of them's at the table, because they come in at different times now, and sit and talk to them.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to be distracted by an email or a phone call or this or that. And it's about sitting there and being present with them.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that apparently if you spend 8 minutes with your child, just one-to-one,
Yeah.
talking. That's actually enough. So you're good. You're a good enough parent if you can spend about 8 minutes with them a day.
And this is it. It's this idea too, the theory of like good enough mother.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important, isn't it? Because so I will try to like set a timer on my phone, and I will say, okay, Anna, you're up. Come on, let's go. What do you want to do? Do you want to do puzzles? And I won't tell her you 15 minutes and put her on a clock. But in my head, I'm like,
15 minutes with me.
If I just do 15 minutes of real presence,
Yeah.
because I could busy myself with a million jobs very easily. I could get distracted and pulled away. And I still do. It's a total practice. God, I'm not saying I've this nailed down in any shape or form. I was really talking to Sean about it during the week. I was like, I'm still not getting it. I'm in my final year of mindfulness, and I've not been very mindful. But then it's like, be mindful of you not being mindful. So I was like, yeah, okay, I am aware that I am distracted. I'm not, like, I know that a lot of my life can be sometimes on an autopilot, but I am really trying to integrate some of that presence with them at home.
Yeah.
Because that's all they really need, actually, in so many ways, God. And we think we want to give them the sun, moon and stars and bring them on this holiday and bring them to Centre Parks and bring them wherever, but actually...
I actually just wanted to
just
be with them and cook
be with
for them.
them.
Like I did, like I've talked about this before. I said to my youngest, like, what would you miss most about me if I died or something? I don't know how we got onto the topic. It wasn't like a morbid. And he says, your food. And, and that is actually what you love doing as a mum, is feeding them.
Yeah.
I actually spend, if I'm not thinking about work, the other part of my brain is all it's thinking about is, what the hell am I going to feed them today?
I know.
And you want to make it different, and you don't want the same thing all the time, but it's very easy to make the same thing all the time. And that's why I started videoing myself doing meals, because I was like, I can't be the only mother that's pulling recipes out of her arse every single night.
No, you're not.
I do not look at recipe books at all. I'm pulling, but the messages that I'm getting from people about them are, Jesus, it's great to see someone using a bloody chicken stock cube instead of boiling the bones and pretending they're doing it with that way. It's great to see you using a bit of tomato ketchup and Bisto gravy.
Yes,
just
welcome
normal
it all
stuff.
in. Yes,
I just think it's so important, because we all try and use up everything that's in the fridge. We all try and, but I literally spend most of my time thinking, what am I going to feed them, or is there enough food in the house? And that brings me on to the whole thing about food in general and eating healthily. And we're talking about intuitive eating, which ultimately results in eating healthily. I assume intuitive eating isn't like you're eating chocolate bars all day.
No,
intuitively, it's like
because,
healthy eating.
If you think about it, I would, invite anybody to eat chocolate bars for a full day. How do you feel?
Yeah,
like
awful.
So it's a healthy relationship to food first and foremost, but it's also about feeling good. It's really about being connected to what feels good in your body. So honestly, try it. Have the chocolate bars or eat the croissants. Eat 10 croissants in a day. See how you feel by the end of the day. You probably, nothing wrong with croissants. I don't want to, I'm not putting them on the shit list or the chocolate on the shit list. Yeah. But you won't feel great because there's nothing that's not going to sustain you and give you energy and all of that. So it's not about just eating whatever you want. It's absolutely about a wide variety of foods.
But on that wide variety of food, for instance, last night I bought 12 chicken fillets to make a chicken curry. So we're a family of 5.
Lovely.
3 dads, myself, my husband, and that was gone by this morning.
Yeah.
It's expensive to feed a family, and it's expensive to feed them healthy food.
Yeah.
A punnet of strawberries is a £5, whereas what's a Happy Meal? And what is someone who doesn't have the means going to feed their child when they don't have enough money to feed them the food that they would really love to feed them, I suppose. Yeah. And that then gets into the whole thing where if people are buying the cheaper processed food, they're not cooking it. They're not teaching their kids to cook. And it's that perpetual thing where people aren't eating properly or healthily because of the cost of food, because of the lack of education. It's like a massive...
Yeah.
It's a massive problem, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, like, what happens when they look at this? Like, typically they'll say like, the statistics will show, and they'll say, that... they look at weight and say like, this is where there's problems. There's pockets in where weight is an issue and children are at a certain weight, children are obese, etc. But like, when we look at what's going on in terms of food availability, food poverty, food scarcity. So yes, like, it can be very difficult to feed a large family of like nutrient dense foods. Yeah. And when you look at, they're doing all these deals in, that's quick and easy sometimes. And look at, that's one little piece of the puzzle. There often is like substance misuse issues and mental health. And, there's loads of different factors that it's not just one thing, right?
No.
But a big part of that is, of course, is food scarcity and food poverty still exists this massively in Ireland today.
Yeah.
Like I know obviously
Because meat is expensive, okay?
Yeah.
It's much cheaper to buy cheaper carbs and load yourself up on that
Yeah.
and them, which isn't necessarily the most nutritious way that kids can eat or their parents can eat.
Yeah.
And it just feeds the cycle of what you're saying, which is food poverty.
Yeah.
And I know from doing other podcasts with people, even there was a paediatrician in and she was talking about there's a new obesity clinic for children, but she says there's such difficult patients because sometimes they don't show up for their appointments, and she would relate it back to the shame that the parents have for even bringing their kids to the appointment.
Yeah.
And it's just perpetuated and it filters down the generations, and then it's the people who are ostracised themselves from society, and you're looking at them going, oh well, you're fat and you're lazy and you're not feeding your kids right either, and it's just awful. So, and I don't know how the cycle's ever going to break, though. Do you? With the way the food industry is, and the way the advertisements are allowed, and the way the discounts happen on the cheaper food, not the good food.
It's again, weight in of itself, like how we are, whatever weight we are at, it's complex. There's over 50 factors that determine your weight, and it's this huge genetic component. And I think that so many parents are under a lot of pressure and feel a lot of stress if their child looks different to their peers in school, and there might be any number of factors that are playing a role there, and it doesn't necessarily either mean that it's wrong. Like, we have to also know that fat children also always existed, like fat people existed since the beginning of time. So fatness in and of itself is not a problem. What happens is that as a society now, it's so stigmatized, it's so discriminated against. Even the word obese. The word's obesity.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a nice word. Well, we don't think it's a nice word, do we?
And even what is the Greek or whatever I'll never have the right word, but eat yourself fat. Wait, what's the? I must look that up to see exactly. It comes from some Greek,
the word
if we
obesity
look up,
comes from.
Yes,
okay, we're going to look it up now.
Look it up.
Live looking up.
Yeah, eat oneself fat or something like that. So it's basically what it's telling us is that it's all down to what somebody is eating. That's it. They're eating too much. Full stop. And it's just much more complex than that.
Yeah.
And I think that there's the automatic insinuation that, if my BMI is in the obese category, does that mean I'm unhealthy? So when we look at these BMIs, I don't know, does it say anything?
No, it just says the word obesity is derived from a Latin word obesus, which in turn is a contraction of two Latin words, ob and edere, meaning to devour, to eat away.
To eat away.
So
okay, there was. I knew I'd seen something somewhere where it said when you break it down, it's to.
I'm sure there is there is a negative connotation towards
absolutely.
it. Absolutely. Even using the word obese, it does.
Yeah.
It does sound negative. So I know that we're talking. We now are encouraged to talk about people that live in bigger bodies, but that encapsulates an entire amount of people. It could be. I don't know whether that just means obese people or whether it means people that just have a high BMI and they're not obese. What does it actually mean?
Yeah, I mean, so I take my learnings from, I suppose, the fat liberation movement, because ultimately we need to be listening to the lived experience of those in bigger bodies to say what is going to help, what's not helping. And we know that a lot of people, now again, I'm sure there's people in that movement that also have disagreeing or have maybe some, because I have spoken to people that are living in bigger bodies that would say, oh, I actually find it helpful to understand that this is obesity. So for them, they might say that this is helpful. Okay. But a lot of the community would be very much on the side that this word is driving the idea that fat is bad, fat is unhealthy, which is not necessarily the case, because again, there are over 100 determinants of health. Weight is just one of them. Yes, weight is one of them. Nobody can also deny that. But there are so many other factors. So no one issue or illness or condition exists in only fat bodies.
Yeah.
In people of heart disease and cancers and, all this kind of cholesterol, right? High blood pressure. Whatever it is, right? The list is endless. There's no, so we know we can't say it's only because you're living in a bigger body. So we know that to be true. But we're not so great at investigating, well, what might be going on in terms of the environment, the behaviours that maybe somebody is engaging in that may be resulting or maybe, perpetuating whatever the physical issue is. Because we also know that there's been research to show that when they've looked at different cohorts of people, in terms of putting one group on a diet, and getting them to lose weight, and another group not putting them on a diet but getting them to engage in lots of health promoting behaviours, their health markers have improved regardless of weight change.
Okay.
So I think that's really important, because if somebody's out there listening going, yeah, I do want to feel healthy, that is so available to us regardless of the scale number changing. If there's a lot that we can do with that. So I think that's really, really important, and a little bit hopeful for people that are just so like, I can't lose weight. Like, I've tried, I've done it all. What am I? There's this option to look
And
at.
would you encourage people to throw out the weighing scales?
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I like it. It's a sad step. Call it the sad step.
Oh,
yeah,
never heard
it's
of
like
that.
You know what? It was just like always a lose-lose, you know. People would say like, you know, people will say that they're neutral towards it, and if you are, that's absolutely fine. But I don't know if there's many that stand in it that don't either feel happy that they see a certain number, so it has changed your state, or feel sad.
Okay.
So it influences you emotionally on some level. There's very few of us that stand in it and have an absolutely neutral response like, oh, that's the number. Very rarely. So it's like, I could never win with the scale. If I stood in it and I didn't like what I saw, I'd be like, right, that's it, I'm going to be even stricter. But if I stood in it and liked what I saw, I'd be like, oh, this is great, let's go celebrate. I'd end up in a binge, because I was like, well, at least I've lost weight, so now I deserve food. So it was lose-lose.
Yeah.
So I'd absolutely say, don't let the number on a scale, like, don't let it decide how your day is going to go. Don't let it decide how good of a person you are. No way.
Just get rid of the bloody scale.
Just get rid of the scale. Just see how it goes. Do you know what? If you're not ready to get rid of it, just put it on, take out the batteries and put it, get your husband, your partner, your housemate to put it away somewhere and don't tell you. And see how you go. Notice the urge to like, do I need to check? Why? What's going on there? What is the story you are telling yourself in that moment about what it's going to mean if you stand on that scale?
And the whole thing around the stand on the scale too, people feel they need to take off all their clothes and take their earrings out.
Oh, sure,
and
everything.
go for a wee.
I've
and do
been
it
nearly
first
going
thing
to
in the morning.
naked to the Weight Watchers meeting. Be going into the bathroom before you go into the meeting, taking off all your clothes. And when you think about it, to be just as light as possible, you know, it's just...
It is.
It's
it's sad though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I know that you do things around the country. So hang on one second. Let's just talk about your day job, which is your perinatal mental health nursing, because I'm sure you even in that work you see women that have issues with weight gain, particularly like post baby.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the body image stuff really can show up like, you know, postnatally, because of course this idea again that like we all just bounce back. I actually seen earlier, and I was like, don't comment, just let it go, because like I seen somebody saying 6 weeks, lose 20 pounds.
Oh my God, I saw that.
Yeah, it was been advertised, 6 weeks, 20 pounds, and you'll be back to your pre-baby body. And I thought, pre-baby body, whose body looks the exact same? Like there's no such thing. It doesn't matter, even if you didn't gain weight or if you didn't get stretch marks and your body looks pretty much the same, it'll still never be the same. It's just grown a full human. It's impossible to be the exact same. Your bladder definitely won't be.
No.
But look at, so there's a lot of push that like, you know, we can all just go back to the way we looked before baby. So a lot of women really, really experience that, you know, and it's just trying to encourage women just to care for their today body. What can I do today that's going to look after my today body? That's the only body we have. Not one of us know what tomorrow is going to bring. All we don't have a past body. We don't have a future body. We have a here and now body. So what can I do today to look after that as best I can? So really love working with women to do some of that work as well. But a lot of, I suppose, because it's a mental health service, like a lot of women, there'll be a lot of high anxiety and a lot of low mood and a lot of overwhelm, like the immense overwhelm that comes, particularly I think for first babies, you know, first time mothers, we would often see that. Because something does shift when you're on number 2. It's different. There's a different juggle. Now you're juggling having 2 smallies. It definitely is not easy, but there's a different set of stresses that come. Whereas the first is like the total like uncertainty. It's totally unfamiliar. You've never done this before. So yeah, and I think I wish there was more honesty about things like intrusive thoughts that often crop up when we have babies. You know, a lot of really difficult intrusive thoughts. That's one thing that a lot of women experience. Up to 40% of women will experience some intrusive thoughts about something bad happening to their baby or them doing something bad to their baby.
And what kind of intrusive thoughts would they be? Just give an example.
Yeah, that I used to have them. I had them on my I didn't have them on my first two, but I had them on my second two. I had a thought, an intrusive thought that would come in as I went up the stairs at night, up until my baby was about 12 weeks old, that when I went up the stairs, what would it be like if I just threw my baby over the balcony? That was my thought. Every time. It was just horrendous.
And
like,
it's you feel guilty for thinking it. You're like, where did this
like,
come from?
what?
Could I possibly do this?
Could I do this? This is just horrendous. I'm the worst mother in the world. I've just had this thought about throwing my baby over a balcony. You know, like, what is wrong with me? But so I wish there was a lot more awareness around, you know, things like that, because a large amount of women will experience that. Or, you know, and there's so much shame and stress about, well, I couldn't tell my public health nurse that I've just had a thought about throwing my baby over the balcony, because they're going to think, well, is this like they're going to take my baby? They're going to contact TUSLA and take my baby. And of course, that's not what happens. And once we say it out loud and say, I've just had these thoughts, you can see the woman's shoulders going, I know, I've had it too. And they're like, oh my God, are you for real? And it typically will resolve after a number of weeks.
Why does it happen? Does anyone know?
Well, there's some theories around it, how like we are like, look at all the hormones. We've obviously grown a baby for all those months, gone through childbirth. Our nervous system is pretty hypervigilant. And it is a theory that we might be just completely alerted to all of the things that could potentially go wrong or harm our babies. And we have these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts that surface out of nowhere. It's like, that's a danger. And it nearly is like in first person that you're going to do it, or I'm thinking that, but it's just alerting our minds to the environment that we're in, like the knives in the kitchen or hot water, if that could fall on the baby, or, you know, there's all these awful scenarios that women will actually either there'll be an image of it or they'll have the thought of it and be like, oh my God. So yeah, like being able to like talk about that, I think is really helpful. I do talk about some things on my Intuitive Eating Ireland page related to this. I do have a video on intrusive thoughts actually, because a lot of people contact me after it on that video. They're like, oh my God, I never knew that other people had this. I never told anybody. Women that would have had babies 20, 30 years ago that were scared of their life to say that they had these thoughts. So yeah, and there's a lot of support that we can work with that really can ease that. And the thoughts typically, once we know that them thoughts are not facts, they're not real, it doesn't mean that you want to do it or that you're going to do it. Once we understand that and we know not to analyse them or hold on to them and just allow them to when we notice them, just let them go, they quieten in their own way and they dissolve.
Okay.
Off they go.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then your other job,
yes,
your night job,
my evening and weekend job
is your Intuitive Eating Ireland job. So
yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so
you do events and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, we do. Like, so myself and Shauna. So it's so funny. I started the page when I first, like about a year after I had started my own intuitive eating journey. And I was like, nobody in Ireland really talking about intuitive eating. I couldn't find anybody at the time. I since discovered that there are loads. Well, not loads. There's a handful actually. There's not half enough. But myself and my sister set up the page together, and we were just rambling about what we were learning about intuitive eating and the whole lot. And then I suppose more people were interested in it to learn more, and then I connected with other people in Ireland that actually were trained in intuitive eating. I was like, this is great. So then I suppose then last year, it's a year this month. Our year, our business anniversary is this month. I contacted Shauna, and I had gone on. We had organised.
Who's Shauna? Shauna
Gibson. She is a eating disorder therapist up in Belfast.
Okay.
And we basically connected through. I'd organised some hiking events. So people that maybe wanted to come along that maybe wouldn't go hiking ordinarily because they would feel like, well, my body is not a hiking body, and I don't want to go along to the typical events where everybody all looks the same, right? All thin bodies. So we would organise kind of like an intuitive eating hiking event. So we had a couple of them, and I met Shauna, came to it, and met her, and got on great. And then last year I was like, what? Like Gillian ended up getting my sister, who was on the page with me, but like Gillian is so funny. She's like, you know, I had enough of social media very quickly. She was like, I just can't cope. I'm totally overstimulated. The social media is driving my nervous system through the roof with all the messages and the questions, and couldn't keep on top of it. So she was like, I'm out of here. I need to, just need to unplug. So she went off social media for about 2 years. And I kept going myself. But last year I was like, I just kind of don't really want to do it on my own. I'd like to hook up with somebody. So I asked Shauna, will you do a workshop with me, a live workshop? And we got loads to come to the first workshop. It was just an introduction to intuitive eating and it went great. And I suppose we worked really well together. I was like, she's on my kind of energy level now. Like I'm the type of person, give me 10 jobs and I'll get 20 done. Don't leave me idle because I'm just like I'll be totally disorganized. But if you give me a deadline, I'll have it done. So and she's very similar. So we would work very well together.
Myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Get a deadline and I'll have it done. But I'll also be burnt out afterwards. But anyways, that's
I'll work
what
myself
it
up into. I'll procrastinate about it for like 2 weeks and then 5 minutes before it's due to be in, I'll go into like absolute like hyper-focus.
And I'd be like, I'll bang it out. So anyways, we are very similar and worked really well together and we done a workshop and it was so funny. The minute we had the workshop done or leading up to it, she was like, well, now we have to offer them something else. So now we have to do a course. And I was like, oh no, I've just started my master's. I'm working full time, not an ocean. But anyways, she pecked my head for long enough that I said, sure, feckin', we'll go for it and see. So we spent months, like I mean every waking minute, I'm not joking, putting together a 12-week program for people to learn all about how to become an intuitive eater. And we started that last year and we've had lots of different cohorts come through since. So that's basically what I do. So we run a group and we provide daily support. We meet once a week and we go through all of this, basically. Learn all about what are the obstacles, what are you getting stuck with, what do you need support with.
It's the opposite of Weight Watchers.
Oh my God, yeah.
Not weighing people and telling them what they can and can't eat.
There's there's no restrictive eating, there's no weighing, there's no focus on weight. It's all about health, well-being, optimising how we are doing day to day, how we look after ourselves, taking that 5 minutes, the mindful moments, the getting the walk in, getting the yoga in, whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you. It could be art, it could be music, playing an instrument, it could be, we all have different creative outlets, what I do to look after myself might not be everybody's cup of tea. Like I love strength training, I love yoga in the morning. They're my kind of, when I get that in the morning, my day is great.
I know. I did a bit of an exercise today and I felt brilliant. And I was like, whatever happens today, I'll at least have done my exercise. Whereas the last 2 days I didn't get anything done and I felt a bit pooey.
Yeah.
Last night, it's funny how it can really, really affect you, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we know that like in what it does to our nervous system, it can be really, really effective in terms of bringing us into a regulated state. It can be really good for either discharging anxious energy or else bringing us from the dorsal state up into a regulated state where we feel like, okay, I've got this, right? So it's really great. It's great.
And it's very obvious to me that your training as a psychiatric nurse has kind of brought you into this intuitive eating. You probably have a huge understanding about mental health as well.
Yeah, well, I'd hope so. I mean, I'm working in mental health for 20 years, but I suppose I've always had an interest in doing, I've done 3 years human needs psychology. I've done dialectical behavioural therapy training. And
what's dialectical behavioural?
DBT is a really intense program created by Marshall Lenihan. It's really about emotional dysregulation. So it's actually a program really for people that experience chronic suicidal thinking and engage in self-harming behaviours. So it would be for people that would have the diagnosis emotionally unstable personality disorder. I'm not a fan of these labels. I don't necessarily believe that they serve, but for some people it might give us an understanding, but it's often rooted in trauma.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a program to help people understand their emotions, how to reduce distress. So there's distress tolerance skills, there's emotion regulation skills, there's interpersonal effectiveness skills, which is all about communication and how we ask for things, how we have boundaries. Boundaries. It's one of the biggest things we struggle with in our society is we've not been able to say no. And not being able to ask for our needs to be met. So I would have done different trainings down through the years in my own job. So I definitely did, because of course Shauna is psychotherapy trained and has done lots of different trainings. So I suppose we were a good match then. Yeah. I do have different trainings and we kind of hopefully have a nice little skills blend.
Yeah, and it's obvious that you were very self-aware even during your binge eating years. Were you self-aware of what you were doing?
Yeah, because I'd done a lot of therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was only post the therapy, was it, that you realised that you were binge eating, or was it?
I done therapy way before I went to therapy for the intuitive eating stuff, but even in my 20s I done a lot of therapy. I went to therapy for myself, but also would have done some couples work. So myself and my husband, we were together. He's my only love. 14 to hear me, 18. So we were together since we were very young, and of course, like, you know, you can often sometimes grow apart a little bit in our 20s, and we had different ups and downs. So we done a lot of couples work, but I would have initially done my own stuff, but then realised that a lot of it was probably rooted in the relationship stuff.
It was his fault, basically, yeah.
Well, I thought, I was like, when I wheeled him up, we drove all the way to Drogheda. I went to the most amazing lady in Drogheda, all the way from Galway. And I wheeled him up in the car. It's like, wait until you get up here and she's going to tell you that all of the things you're doing wrong and it's all your fault. And then when we got in there, man, was I surprised. I had some stuff.
I know.
I was partly my stuff too, right? So
of course
it was.
But actually, I think it's lovely that you're even talking about couples counselling, because I think that people think that you have to go to couples counselling when you're at a crisis point. But actually, I think everyone should be going to couples counselling.
I think we all need a bit of therapy.
Because sometimes you can be living with someone and spending all this time with someone and raising children with them, and finances are all mixed up. But actually, do you actually really give each other the time and the space to understand each other and where each other are coming from? And sometimes a fight is about, who can win or have the last word.
Of course.
So I think it's lovely to be able to do couples counselling. And actually, I was speaking to a psychotherapist recently, and she said the busiest times for her are in September, when the kids go back to school for couples, and in January after Christmas for couples. They're kind of a crisis point. So if you can get to a psychotherapist or a psychologist before crisis point,
that's the time to go.
It can really help, can't it?
Really, really help. You know, because you know what? With all the demands of life and all the goings on, whether it's work or kids or, you know, looking after elderly, sick parents, or it could be any number of things, keeping the intimacy and the spark alive, and have been able to communicate your needs in an intimate relationship, and be able to have time for yourselves and go on date night and talk about other things other than paying the ESB and what you're going to cook for dinner. You know, like at the end of the day, that can take work, and we can get distracted, and then sometimes that gap opens up and it can get bigger and bigger, and then we're afraid to touch it, so we just don't go near it, because it's like, stay the hell away, we're grand, we'll take along. But you know, and like you said, don't wait until the crisis point, because there's a lot that can be done. There's so much that can be done. Like we benefited. The work that we done in our 20s has still stood to us today. Like it really has. I mean that hand in heart. Like it's, you know, it's kept a really strong, good relationship. Not perfect. We're not perfect. Far from it. We kill one another. But we kill one another with lots of humour and fun at times
respect.
too.
So long as you kill each other and you can have a respectful argument, isn't it?
Yeah. But, you know, and like then you've got like the likes of, like, I know myself and Sean got tickets for your show in January.
Did you?
In Galway.
God.
So because you're going to have Grace, Alice, because I was like, she, you know, things like that, being able to look at, you know, that's another area, like our, you know, our sexual selves and that in our relationship. That's another big part. I think we need to have more of that conversation. So it's great to see, and Grace is fantastic. Like,
Grace
I'm a
is
big
brilliant.
fan of Grace.
And actually, I just did a talk yesterday with, it was online though, and I always think that the in-house is better, but online you can still kind of get your point across. And I whipped out the dildo. You know, I always do, just for the crack.
Yeah.
But you know, people are like shocked.
I don't know where to look.
Yeah, but it's just, it's about opening up the conversation for people that, and a lot of people will have issues when they're as they get older, having penetrative penis in vagina sex if they're heterosexual.
Yeah, of course.
I think the lesbians know exactly what to be doing.
Yeah.
What to be doing with penetration. They have it nailed. They have the best sex ever. But, you know, and people can be using little small bullets for just clitoral stimulation. They don't need, because we can have issues with our anatomy as our vaginas can, you know, they can get smaller, they can be dry, it can be just painful, and unless we are using I suppose the drugs that we need to use for there and the lubricants, it can be an issue. But people don't know that there are alternatives. So you know, it's so important that we have those conversations. There's no shame around them.
This is it. It's the conversation. Once it's out there, it just makes all the difference, because like, just open it up.
And I can imagine people listening to this conversation now, they're listening going, Jesus, that's us, as in like, that's me with the binge eating, that's me maybe with the relationship issues, that's me with maybe projecting my food issues onto my children. And at least like if you help one or two people by talking and opening up, then they talk to someone else, and it's like has a ripple effect, doesn't it?
It has a total ripple effect. It really does. And I think one of the biggest pieces of the healing journey is knowing that you're not alone, and fundamentally knowing that you're not broken, and that like a problem to be fixed. And once you even know that much, go, God, so other people have had this, so I'm not alone. That's a big piece of it, actually. That's why the community, I'm really a big fan of the group work, because like there's magic in group work. I feel I've always had an interest in group work, and I've always ran groups. That's one of my favourite thing to do, working with people, because the dynamics of a group, but also just what is shared in the group, even if it's the context, never really matters, because all of us, we know. You know what shame feels like. I know what it feels like. I know what guilt feels like. I know what sadness feels like. We all know what the emotions feel like and what that experience, even if the context is different. So like when somebody's sharing something, like, oh, I can relate to that, even if it's a different story. And it just really helps. You know, it's really, really quite cathartic. So yeah, group work for the win.
And where can people find you?
So we have a website. Oh God, I hate technology. But anyways, Shauna looks after that stuff. I feel like there's always something glitching on us. But anyways, we do have a website and we do try to look after it as best we can. Shauna's doing a great job. So it's www.intuitiveeatinghub.com, and I am on Instagram.
Sorry, you said that really fast.
Sorry,
did I talk?
Sorry, I talk 90 miles an hour.
So people can write it down.
www.intuitiveeatinghub.com.
Okay.
And then I'm on at intuitive.eating.ireland on Instagram.
Okay.
That's it. That's me in a nutshell.
You're wonderful. Can I ask you my 2 questions?
Yes. Oh no, I didn't do homework. What were they?
Did you not get the message? What advice would you give young people today, and what is the meaning of life?
But that's okay. I'll answer them anyways. My brain not registering that I have questions.
Okay. You probably didn't read down to the end of the email.
I don't read down to the end of any email. I'm the world's worst.
No problem. So I think sometimes it actually comes better when you haven't even thought about it.
Yeah.
What advice would you give young people today?
What advice would I give young people today? Don't diet. Don't diet. You know, the pull can be so strong to anybody that's, you know, that young age, 15, 16, 17, the friends are thinking about it, talking about it, doing it. Don't do it, because it really can mess up so much, not just physically, psychologically, your relationship to food. You could spend a long time trying to heal the damage of the dieting. Just don't diet. Don't deprive yourself.
And actually, just on that, and you were talking about orthorexia, apparently there is this thing in schools where, you know, young girls in particular will only eat a certain type of food. Like they go in with lunch, they won't eat white bread, or it has to be non-carby, or everyone's going into school with the same lunches, or they're actually not eating in school and coming home starving, or don't want to be seen eating in front of people. Like there's lots of issues. So
there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to food and body.
If a mother or father is worried about the way their daughter is approaching food, can you help them?
So yeah, we do. We have a course. We have an online course, Raising Intuitive Eaters. It is it's suitable for all ages. If any parents are interested, it's a self-paced course. There's 8 modules, and it guides you through the division of responsibility. That's an eating framework by Ellen Satter, to help parents understand what their role is in terms of feeding children. That ultimately our role as parents is to decide what we're offering them and when we're offering them the food. So like whatever time of day or wherever, and where. At home, at the kitchen table, wherever. And it's the child's job to decide what they're going to eat from what has been offered and how much. That's their job. It's not our job to influence that in any way at all. And I really, find that that's quite helpful for parents to understand, like, what's my job, what's my responsibility, and what's theirs. Because parents, and I done it myself, the bribing, just eat this and you can go watch telly and just, finish your vegetables. But all of this is going to be planting all of these different really unhelpful thoughts and beliefs about food, and the mistrust that they will have in terms of understanding their own cues. So all of that can be really, really unhelpful. So this 8-module course will hopefully help parents do that. Okay. But if they had worries about, like, if there was potentially an eating disorder, that's a bit different. And that needs to be, really, I suppose the GP is the first protocol. Yeah, for sure. And it's difficult because the ED services are not adequate at all in Ireland. They're not for adults and not for children. No, there's a lot that needs to be done, really. Yeah.
That's another podcast.
Yeah.
What's the meaning of life?
Like, part of me was going to say, like, is it really about being able to connect into your reality, which is your present moment, your here and now, as opposed to being in the past, being in the future, which a lot of us spend maybe our lives doing. But I really am not sure. I guess I don't know if I'll ever know. I wonder, will any of us ever know? What
Who
the
knows?
exact meaning of life is. I don't know. That's a terrible answer. But sure, there you
No,
go.
it's not.
Maybe edit that out. Edit that last bit. Whoever edits, edit that out.
It's not getting edited. Sinead, you've
okay.
been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming all the way from Galway.
Oh,
to speak
you're
to me
very
today.
welcome. It was lovely to
wonderful
chat to
see
you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.